Today I'm making date bars. They're a kind of square cookie that it has dates and nuts and oats in it. They're very good. First you'll need 2 cups of softened butter or margarine. I'm using butter. And 2 cups of brown sugar. And you're just going to cream that together in your mixer. It doesn't take long to cream that together. Then we're going to add 3½ cups of quick oats. Okay, it's just oatmeal, quick oats. Then you want 3½ cups of regular flour. Put that in there. Then a teaspoon of salt, and I put it in with the flour. And also we're going to put 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract in. If you don't have an industrial mixer, you might have to mix the oats and the flour up into the butter and sugar by hand, because see, the dough is very thick dough. So if you don't have an industrial mixer, you'll have to do that step by hand. And this is our dough for our date bars. Now on the stove we have 2 8-ounce packs of dates that are chopped up. I chopped them up. You want dates that are pitted, and I just chopped them up in a food processor. And you'll need 1 cup of water in with them. And while I was grinding them, to make it easier, I put a ½ cup in each 8-ounce portion, so the water's already in here. You also need 2 cups of sugar into your pitted dates. We're going to heat this up because this is our filling. You're going to heat it up on medium heat. If you don't have a food processor to grind your dates up, you can always just chop them up by hand. Just need them in wee little pieces so you can put them on the stove to cook. This is your sugar and dates and a cup of water. So that's 2 8-ounce packs of pitted dates, which means you need a total of 16 ounces of pitted dates, 2 cups of sugar, and a cup of water. We're going to heat it up on medium heat. You'll also need 1 cup of ground nuts, and I ground them up in the food processor too. Like I said, if you don't have a food processor, you can always just put them in a Ziploc bag and pound them with a rolling pin. Just make the nuts really small. If you had a food processor, just whip them in there a couple seconds and you're done. See how all the sugars mixed together and it's starting to get nice and creamy? After your dates have cooked for about 10 minutes, see how they're boiling? That's the way you want them. About that thick, because we're going to, once these cool a little bit, we're going to add the 1 cup of nuts. So turn the heat off while we're waiting for that to cool off the burner and add our nuts in. We're going to take our dough and separate it into 2 piles on 2 different cookie sheets on wax paper. Now we separate our dough into 2 balls, one on this pan, one on this pan. Make sure the pans are exactly the same size and they're on wax paper. Now to spread them out, you can spread them out by hand, or you can use a rolling pin. Either one. But you're going to need a piece of wax paper on top too, so we can spread it out. Okay, so you can either spread it out by hand or use a rolling pin. Rolling pin is a lot faster, as you can see. Just roll it all the way out in the pan. Just a regular size cookie sheet, size you use to make a dozen cookies. perfect size for this. Just keep rolling it out till it's all one thickness. Once you get your dough all rolled out, you want it the same width as your wax paper. You don't have to go clear to the edge of your pan, just the same size as your wax paper, same width, because we're going to flip them into the pans. So first, we'll take this one. We're going to get the wax paper off of it. So, take the wax paper off one side. And we're just going to flip it into the pan. Like that. And then take the wax paper off. Okay, we got it in our pan. Flipped it over, got the wax paper off, and we're just going to, with our hand, bring it to the edge of the cookie sheet. Doesn't need to be up the sides, just to the edge. Try to make it all one thickness. And while you're doing this, you can have your oven preheating on 350. Okay, so that is ready. Now we're going to take our dates that we boiled on the stove that have cooled a little. See, they're a lot thicker than they was. We're going to add our nuts in. For that, stir them into our date sugar mixture, our nut mixture, onto our dough. So you just take a little glob here, glob there, and then we're going to spread it out. My mother called these wedding date bars because about 60 some odd years ago she made these the day before her wedding. So she calls them her wedding date bars. They're really, really good, and one of my favorite cookies. A little more complicated to make than most, but it's well worth doing. If you like dates, you'll love these cookies. Then you just spread it out all over the dough. You want it almost to the edge because it'll spread out on its own while it's baking too. It's really sticky, so you can scrape some of it off your spoon onto the edges. Okay, now once you get that done, the tricky part is flipping the top on. So that is done. We're going to get our other dough that we rolled out in our other pan and put it on top. This is our other one. So we're going to have to make sure we can flip it right onto the other one. Get it close together as possible. And then we're just going to flip it right on top. And you can move it a little bit because you still got the wax paper on. Till it lines up. This wax paper off. Just make sure it isn't hanging over the edge. Don't want anything hanging over the edge, getting on the inside of your oven. Okay, now we're going to bake it. We're going to bake it for 30 to 35 minutes in a 350-degree oven. Our wedding date bars have just coming out of the oven. It was in there 35 minutes, nice and golden brown. We'll let them cool for about 20 minutes, and then we'll cut them into squares. Our wedding date bars have cooled for about 20 minutes. I'm cutting it with a pizza cutter. Just easy, it seems, than a knife. You have more control of it because you have a handle that you can really grip onto. Not to say that I'm cutting it in straight lines, because, you know, nobody's perfect. But that is how I cut them. And then we'll just take them out with a spatula, put them on a plate, and we're ready to eat. Just going to take some out of the pan so I can show you what they look like. Here's your wedding date bars with a nice layer of your dates and nuts in the middle. I hope you like my recipe for wedding date bars. Like and subscribe to my channel. Till next time.